every laugh, every smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity. And make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste, the therapist. Let's go.
Hi. Hello, beautiful people. If you're watching me on the replay, thank you so much for watching me. I truly appreciate you. It's Monday. The last episode was on Friday. I got to see you guys. So I'm excited to be back with another week of amazing guests that are going to help us kind of shift the way that we think. So if you've never been in here before, I have a podcast. So all of these episodes that I do on video end up being on the podcast, so you can definitely catch that. This is my podcast. It's called Celeste, the Therapist Podcast. And the goal behind it is to just help people kind of shift the way they think. I feel like a lot of times we get stuck in like really negative cycles. Hey, Missy, we get stuck in really negative cycles and we struggle with like, how is it that I can get out of this cycle? And so my goal with bringing different guests on in different sectors of life, I think it's a powerful thing to do because it can really help us kind of think about things outside of the box. So before we get started, before I bring on my special guest, I just wanted to put this text crisis line up. You guys know I put this up every episode. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, anxious, struggling with support, you can text 741-741. You will be connected directly to a crisis counselor that can have a conversation with you. So I know this is like a really hard time for so many people, which is why I decided to kind of come on this platform on video. I started to switch it up because I really wanted people to like kind of hear and try to think differently about what they're going through. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my special guest and I'm going to have him introduce himself to you guys. Let me bring him onto the stream.
Oh, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Can you introduce yourself to my audience, please?
Sure. Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Kwame Sarfo-Mensa, and I am the owner and founder of Identity Talk Consultant, LLC, which is an organization that focuses on professional development for teachers, but also engages with different families and organizations within the community.
And you're a teacher currently, correct?
Yes, I am. Educator by trade.
What is there a specific subject you teach, or what does your teaching career looks like?
So I specialize in secondary level mathematics.
What does that mean?
So for those who aren't familiar, I do a lot of foundational algebra, early trigonometry, geometry.
Okay.
So those subjects that most of us dread in high school, that's what I specialize in.
I was gonna say you do the hard stuff.
Exactly.
I thought I was like I like math, you know, and I think algebra was cool, but that geometry, I was like, I don't really like math as much as I thought I liked math.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so that's cool. And then when it comes to your consultant business, how did that derive? Like, how do you go? Because usually teachers kind of stay being a teacher, but you took it a step further and developed a consulting business. Like, why? What started that?
Sure, I'll give you the abridged version because of time. So, reaching my 9th year of teaching, I'd already seen what I needed to see as far as the inequities that we face as Black and brown people within the education space. I saw students just getting frustrated with the lack of quality within the education system and the excess of standardized testing that they had to undergo. And I just wasn't happy doing the job. I was just frustrated, and I just reached a point where I just thought, you know what, maybe I can do more outside the system than I can within it. So that actually led to the publishing of my first book, which is called Shape the Teacher Identity. So this is a book that started this whole journey into entrepreneurship. And I published this book in December of 2019. And that's just basically a book where I started to just write about the idea that the experiences that we experience early on in our life will allow us to shape who we want to be as change agents in the classroom. And so I started to think about how I can convey this message from the book to a wider audience, because not everybody reads books.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're in this age of social media and technology where everything is visual. We need short snippets
Mm-hmm.
of information. So then I just said, well, maybe I can change each chapter of the book and make it a professional development series that I can package and deliver to different schools and districts. So that's what gave birth to Identity Talk Consultant LLC. So if you see the connection, the book was called Shape the Teacher Identity. So I just basically took that identity part and made Identity Talk, because as teachers, as practitioners, we have to have this internal dialogue about who we want to be as educators and how we want to be perceived in the outside world. And yeah, that's basically
pretty dope.
Yeah,
it's crazy how you start with one idea that kind of transformed into a whole consultant. How have people responded to what you're doing, or how have you seen any results?
Yeah, for sure. But when you're in that entrepreneurial space, I mean, you're not going to get $1 million after a month. We know this. It takes some work. It takes a lot of time and investing and building a relationship that allow you to push forward and to grow your base. So a lot of what's happened with me has just been a blessing, just being able to come across like-minded educators who want to do more than just teach in the classroom. They want to be agents of change for marginalized communities. And that's what I want to be.
That's so awesome. Yeah. I'm glad that you embarked upon that. I know things have changed a lot. I'm 37. I think teachers when I was growing up were different than what they are now. And I know like a lot of people are struggling even before COVID.
Yeah.
So now that COVID is here, right? And I have 4 kids for 3 different schools, 4 different grades. And I know I've been kind of struggling with trying to manage everything that's happening. And I feel like I have enough a mental, emotional wellness to be able to like make it okay, you know? But what kind of things are you doing like with the teachers or with the parents, or if anything around like with COVID right now?
So I've just been trying to dabble into a few different things. The first thing that I've done is present free workshops to parents who are in need of resources during COVID-19. Just basic ways in which they can engage their children during this time, because I think with the absence of school, physical school, parents have felt the burden of having to try to replicate the educational experience that the kids were getting while they were in school. And the reality is, as an educator, we're not expecting them to replicate everything that we do, because that's just an unrealistic expectation.
Kwame, the first couple of weeks, I had to schedule, and I thought I was going to be doing it. I was like, I'm about to make this work, and it took me. You're saying, it took me a couple of weeks to be like, Celeste, you're not being realistic. You're not a teacher,
right?
But luckily, I had some amazing teachers I can text. You know, they're teachers, and they're like, they laugh at me. They're like, it's okay, don't worry, like.
But listen though, I mean, you just have high expectations. That's what it is. You have zeal. And when you have zeal, and as someone who can be overzealous at times, I know how it
Yeah.
is to have this grand master plan that you're going to try to execute, and it doesn't quite go to fruition. So I just try to tell parents, to focus really on growth, and more importantly, the mental wellness of your children, because this is a traumatic experience, not just for parents, but for teachers and students alike. And then I just saw a comment about from a parent who has an autistic child. I actually worked at a school that specialized in autism spectrum disorder. So I had kids in my class who were on all different parts of the spectrum. So I know how hard it is to not be in a place where there's no structure. Because when you have autism, depending on where you are on the spectrum, structure is a big thing. It has to be structured and has to be consistent. When that structure is disrupted for whatever reason, that can cause episodes that can throw people off. So I just feel for the parents who do have students with special needs. Yes, you're welcome.
Yes.
Because it's real. It's real in these streets right now. And anything that can provide to alleviate the burden from them in particular, I'm more than happy to share that. So
What when you say you provide the workshops to help people, the parents kind of navigate, what does that look like? What kind of things are you providing?
sure. So I'm providing things such as websites or resources they can go to maybe get free tutoring lessons in different content areas. There are a myriad of teachers who are giving out free lessons in math, reading on their live social media channels, whether it's
Wow.
Facebook, Twitter. I actually came across an art teacher who's based in Tennessee who does free art lessons, and
Wow.
she posted the videos on a social media channel. So people are getting very innovative in this space.
That's
Just,
awesome.
yeah,
And the art stuff, I think about the people that are like artistic art, like into the arts and don't have, you know, that's kind of their outlet. Like everybody learns or enjoys different things, and to have somebody doing artwork, that's pretty amazing. Wow. Okay.
there you
So
go.
being able to attend the workshop, they can actually get a lot of like free resources and different things that they probably wouldn't have known was out there.
Yes. So far I've done two workshops. The first workshop I did a few weeks back was on fun, no tech math enrichment activities that will help strengthen your students' numeracy skills. So basically, in layman's terms, I'm giving parents a bunch of activities and games they can play with children to help them have better math skills in
That's
the absence
good.
of school. And they don't involve the computer, because one of the biggest stressors of this online learning experience is the fact that parents are being bombarded with helpful tech tools and websites, but there's just too many of them coming at once, and it's hard for us to process. So if we
You're
could
right.
if we could just go back to basics and understand that before all this technology, there was a time when we were being taught by our parents, and we were engaging with our parents, and we had the flashcards, we had the memory cards, and that's how we were learning. We didn't have the internet, we didn't have social media, we didn't have video games, So if we can just kind of understand that we've done this before,
We have.
and we just have to revert back to those times. You can call it archaic or not, but guess what? They proved to be effective, because I'm 36 years old and I think I turned out pretty well.
Yeah, no, that's good. Don't call it archaic. Don't say that. Come on, don't do
That's
us
what
like that.
this is what people say, especially the kids I've taught. They say, "Oh, you man, you an old head." I'm like, "How am I an old head? I'm barely older than you, but okay, that's debatable."
No, that's so good. And you're right. We are, like, I'm speaking from just a parent standpoint. I'm like you said, it's helpful. Like, I'm getting this stuff and I'm just like, it's so much. I don't even know where to start. But I
Right.
do have pen and paper. I can like go back to basics. I honestly didn't think about that. So I'm just glad you even said that out
No,
loud,
no, for
because it
real.
really helps me
Yeah.
get a little bit of peace.
And then and I just forgot to mention another thing that I'm doing in addition to the workshops is I do provide math tutoring services.
Nice.
But because we have a lot of families who are in financial hardship as a result of not being able to work,
Mm-hmm.
I'm providing tutoring sessions pretty much Monday through Friday between the hours of 1 and 4 o'clock. I currently have a couple clients, but if there are any families who have children, particularly in middle to high school, who need some tutoring in math, I do provide those services, and they can get at me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now you're doing amazing stuff with the kid, with the parent, for the parents, for people like me. I appreciate like what you're doing. Like, that's freaking awesome. What are you doing anything for the teachers? Because I'm pretty sure like I think when my teacher texts me, when the kids teachers text me, I'm like, how are you doing? Because their lives got just kind of turned upside down as well. Even though they're behind the screen, I feel like sometimes there's even more work to do because of all of the communication that they have to start doing. Are you doing anything with the teachers?
Yes, I am. So, during this time, I've been doing a lot of writing, so I am a writer as well. So the way I've been contributing and feeding the teachers is just through writing different op-eds for different publications. So I've been doing that. I also came out with a second book, which is called From Inaction to Inaction, Creating a New Normal for Urban Educators. And I just think it's divine intervention because this book was written back in November. I didn't release it until March. So when you think about the theme From Inaction to Inaction, you think about the word inaction. To be inactive is to be indifferent in an urban school context, to be in despair, to be hopeless, to not be solution oriented. You're on the bench, you're not in the game. When you go from inaction to a state of inaction, now we separate the prefix in and the verb action. Now we're in a state of being solution oriented. Now we're trying to figure out, instead of commiserating about the fact that we're in this COVID-19 crisis, what can I do differently that's innovative, that's going to allow my students to thrive? What's going to alleviate the burden off of families? Now let's think about solutions. And this is probably one of the best parts about this pandemic, is the fact that we have time to think about solutions.
Yeah.
When we're in the classroom, when we're in our respective 9-to-5 jobs, we don't have time to think. We don't have time to reflect and evaluate what's truly going on because life's going so fast. But with all this extra time, idle time for some folks, if you don't have kids, you're now in a position to really be creative and figure out ways to have an impact in this space.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that in order for us to kind of be solution oriented is to look at like the beauty and the struggle. Like, it's to struggle what's happening. Like, no, everyone can attest to that. But I think trying to pull out the beauty. Okay, so I do have this time. Let me work on doing X, Y, and Z. It does take a mind shift in order for that to happen. But I think positive can come out of it,
Yeah, we have to be optimistic. Things can't get any worse than this. So we can, yeah.
When it comes to like, for my audience, because one of the things I want my guests to do is kind of give us some takeaways. on how to like work through what's happening, whether it be as far as education. I love your whole thing at the beginning around like teachers and how like the way that they were kind of brought up can have an effect on the way that they teach. So I see you got the mental health angle in there. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of like tools have you been thinking about? Because you seem like a thinker and a processor that you really want people to kind of understand and know.
No, I think I'm definitely a thinker.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes to a fault, because people who are more spontaneous. They just want to just go ahead and do it. I'm more of a, all right, let me just think about what I'm doing before I actually go about doing it. So it's more of a methodical approach.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
it's funny because the title of this show is Shifting the Way You Think.
Mm-hmm.
And just to kind of give you some context, after last school year, in June, my whole family moved to Ethiopia because my wife took a position with U.S. Peace Corps as a director of program and training there.
Wow.
So we were actually there for pretty much from June all the way up until March when we had to move back here because of COVID. So during that whole time, I had to get adapted to a new culture, get adapted to the fact that I'm not going to be in a classroom for the first time in 14 years.
Wow.
And I could tell you, to be honest, it was really tough. But then I had to think to myself, well, what can I do to have that same impact virtually? So during that time, I created an online course for teachers, which I piloted late last year.
Wow.
I wrote and published my second book, which I just showed you already.
Wow.
I started my own talk shows, just like you did. I started a talk show and just interviewed educators from all across the globe.
Wow. That is
wrote
so
op-eds. All these things happened during that idle time that I had. So if there's one thing that I can share with folks who are wondering what to do with this time, well, you know what? If you're that person that's always said, I want to start a business, start the business plan right now. If you're the person that's always said, I want to write that book, write the manuscript right now. If you're that person that wants to start a show, all right, think about what the format of the show is. Think about what guests you want to invite into the show. The time is now.
No, you're right.
Time's now.
No, that's good. I always said I wanted to have a show, right? And I already had the podcast, and I, when COVID started, I'm like, everybody's home. Why don't I just create the show? I literally created it overnight. I just text somebody and said, hey, you mind coming on and talking about what you're doing? And that person said yes. And then I text the next person. But now, like, I have, over a month of guests filled up because of me thinking about it that way. You're absolutely right about that. That's so amazing. I wanted to put this comment up. As from YouTube, as a teacher and a mom, I have dealt with mom guilt due to the fact that I am answering text calls, lesson plans, Zoom meetings. It's a lot, dang, which is causing me to miss out or not give much time to my 5th grader and 3-year-old son. I know the teachers are going through it.
And what's crazy is here in Boston, I think Boston Public Schools and the Boston Teachers Union finally struck an agreement as to how many hours of learning teachers should be providing during this time. Because as you know, talking about intersectionality of this whole situation, you have educators who are also parents as well.
Right, right.
So not only are they preparing lessons for their students in the school they teach, but they also have to monitor the learning and be there for their own children who are trying to navigate through this space. And there are times where their own children are navigating this space alone without the aid of their parents who may be in the middle of teaching a lesson. So it's been a trying experience for so many BPS teachers. It is not to discount or disregard the experiences of parents because they're feeling it equally as much, maybe even more. But BPS teachers who are also parents are feeling it. And there are a lot of op-eds and articles out there that justify this.
Do you have you heard of any kind of like support groups or anything that teachers are doing to kind of help? Because what Miss Lee wrote up here from YouTube, I literally think about like all the efforts they put in. I'm just one parent they're calling out of the other students, right? Or texting. And for me, I'm just like, oh, thank you. Like, how are you? But, it could be more conversation with other people that take them away from their life.
I will say this, because of this situation, there have been an influx of teacher support groups that have been created at an exponential rate. If you were to go to Twitter, because Twitter is probably the best in terms of chats, like interactive chats, there are a lot of teacher support groups that meet up once a week to just have chats with other teachers and to vent. Like, I've been to a couple of them focused around Black male teachers, and I've been talking to Black male teachers across the country who are feeling the impact of this COVID-19 pandemic, and we've just vented, commiserated, and come together to build and figure out ways in which we can make our respective communities better and to come out of this situation stronger. So I know there are equivalent groups for women educators. They're out there. I think if you were to just do a search on any of the social media outlets, you're guaranteed to find at least one.
Thank you for bringing that up. Whether you're a teacher or a parent, there's something powerful about community. And I know it's hard because I didn't even think to like say that, right? So it's hard to think that way when you're like, well, we're all struggling, right? Like, who am I going to talk to? Because everybody's in the same boat. But there's something when we are able to get together and like have this conversation because we're going through the same thing. So whether you're a parent struggling or a teacher struggling, I think it'd be powerful to try and find that like support group. But you're right. I've seen so many innovative things pop up since COVID started where like my heart is so warm because of how people have stepped up.
For real. And I just mentioned there's actually one group in particular. For those that are on Facebook, the group is called Quarantine Teaching. Teaching. And for the parent who had a comment about their autistic child, there's actually a Facebook group that is specifically for students with special needs. And they provide ideas for how to teach them. I can't remember the name, but if we can get the name of that parent, I will gladly give them the name of that group so she can look at it on her own.
Okay, I'm gonna. She's on Facebook, so we can write under her comment so that she can get that information.
Yes, for sure.
That's awesome. That's why, I swear, like my heart is so warm right now because I started this because of like what you just shared, right? I don't have all the answers, and but I don't want people to be alone trying to figure this out either. So that you just bringing on your knowledge, and it's you acting and you've been doing things to help the community. Like I'm just grateful for people like you as a parent. Like I know that so many other parents are struggling, so I'm just like beyond grateful for like your knowledge and just your willingness to share.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is what I love to do, just help families out.
Thank you. How can people reach you if they wanted to connect further?
Well, for those who are looking at the ticker, you can find me on my website, identitytalkforeducators.com. I'm also on all social media outlets. Here on Facebook, you can just look for my name, Kwame Sarfo-Mensa, or go to my business page, Identity Talk Consulting LLC. On Twitter, my handle is @IdentityShaper. And on Instagram, my handle is @Kwam, which that's KWAM_the_identity_shaper.
And if you are listening to this on the podcast, all you got to do is go to the show notes and click on, I'll have a hyperlink to all of the things he just listed out. So Kwame, thank you so much. I'm grateful to you and everything that you do. It's really going to be helpful to my audience.
Thank you, Celeste. Thank you for having me. This has been awesome.
Yay. Okay. That was so awesome. I'm glad that he came in to kind of share with us. I honestly like the idea of support group. I talk about that a lot, but I know he was so good. I talk about that a lot, but I haven't brought it up, and now like Kwame's making me think about bringing this stuff up as people are having comments or questions around like that part. And so like he's the first like teacher that I've had on since, or in general since my podcast, but you know, with the COVID stuff, and as a parent, it was important for me to talk to the educator. I have a principal coming up next month, so we're gonna hear, you know, what it looks like from the administrative level, and give us some tips as well on how to like navigate this. But a key part in what he says is kind of like making, oh, you're welcome, Miss Lee. Thank you for being here. I'm grateful for you being here. A key part of what I want you guys to take away from what he said is, you know, kind of shifting your thinking and kind of thinking outside the box. And yes, we are in the middle of COVID. And so like, I want people to really make sure that they are not letting the negative thoughts kind of control them, because that can tend to happen. And that happens, it will stay in that state if we're not doing something within our control. So what we're eating and what kind of schedule we have for ourselves, like how we're sleeping, like those kind of things we have control over. So really thinking about like what's within my control, that's going to be so helpful for you, because there's so much outside of our control. So thinking about that is going to be huge. So thank you guys so much. We're going to be back tomorrow, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to talk to somebody else. I thank you, Missy, for being here. You guys can see the show lineup. If you go to my social media page, I have everybody that's going to be up, so you can always check them out, check out their website, learn a little bit about them before they come on. And again, if you want to listen to it on the audio, you can listen to my podcast. So thank you guys so much. Y'all know I love y'all so much, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Every laugh, every smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity, and make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste, the therapist. Let's go.